This is a story about beginnings.
Every single person, not just in Alberta, but on this planet, has a connection with a tree. And that why is something I'm going to be exploring for the rest of my career.
Okay, start at the beginning of it.
I was the general manager of reclamation and forestry at a company called Tree Time Services. That particular group that I was leading does reclamation work, the environmental liability and reclamation requirements of industry across Western Canada.
But something kept popping up.
We kept getting calls saying, "Hey Mike, I want to buy some trees and plant them somewhere to do something good."
So you planted some trees.
You can't just go around guerrilla planting trees wherever you'd like. It's against the law.
Did not know that.
And I need to follow those rules and regulations to do things ethically and responsibly. We didn't have a good solution to that particular problem.
But an idea was planted.
What if we create a bunch of forests and have partners contribute to planting trees?
The idea germinated.
Project Forest is a non-profit group that works with the Canadian business community to rewild the Canadian landscape one forest at a time.
So you're planting trees.
Well, we don't just plant trees. It's a very involved process.
Okay, the floor is yours.
When we're targeting land, it's essential to be targeting what we would classify as non-productive agricultural land. And there's a ton of land out there that's been cleared inappropriately and sitting stagnant. So how do we identify places like that? We partner up with conservation groups and Indigenous communities. The first time I show up onto a piece of land, I walk through it, I kind of try and get the vibe for it. Every site has its own story, every land has its own story. We come up with a list of 10 species, 12 species for a 100,000 tree project. Procure the seed, produce the plants, do any mechanical site prep that needs to happen before the trees are planted. Then finally,
we are planting trees.
We're about creating forests.
Right, you said that.
When we rewild the land, we are trying to build a structure of plants that work together to create maximum ecological benefit. We're creating forests so that the critters have a home, the birds have more food, and that you, me, our grandkids, and our grandkids' grandkids have a forest they can go and enjoy for generations to come. The other group of communities that are really important to Project Forest are the Indigenous communities across Western Canada. We really need to learn what are the important species to that group of people. Which species are considered important from a food, medicinal, and cultural perspective. We want to reintroduce traditional foods back onto the landscape. And then as these areas transition from field to forest, reestablish traditional land use opportunities for the people that call these lands home.
Okay, we are in. We'd like to buy some forest, please.
2026, it's AMA's 100th anniversary in Alberta, and AMA is going to rewild 100 hectares to celebrate that anniversary. That will mean 200,000 trees. Will by far be the largest single corporate contributor to rewilding with Project Forest. This is a relationship-driven organization. The name Project Forest is really important to us because it talks about community, and a community of trees is a forest, and we're trying to create a community of environmentally responsible businesses coming together to make positive impact. We can't do this work alone. Community is everything.
Couldn't agree more. Proud to be part of it. Because we're driven by purpose.